You're really looking after all the ESG and stakeholder issues there at one of the world's best known investing firms. A big week for New York City, as you know, as a resident of this city, but also not just for climate, but for sustainability. And it now feels like this is an investable sphere. Tell us about it.
There's no question. The United Nations Sustainable Development Goals were established because it was a recognition that some of the biggest challenges we face, climate change is an example. Another example is, as the population grows, how do we deal with waste? How do we make sure that water is available and plentiful and clean? How do we educate a workforce in a world of tremendous technological disruption? And what the folks that established the UN SDGs recognized was we all need to help.
Right.
So policymakers this week are talking about what they're doing. We've seen citizen activists inspire all of us to be involved. But we as investors and companies have a role to play too. And in fact, many of these challenges are amenable to great investment opportunities.
And so I want to talk about some of those specific opportunities, but also before I get to that, I want to ask you, have you felt sort of pressure / encouragement from your own investors to go deeper into this area?
We have. Our investors are excited about this opportunity from a number of perspectives. First, we have some proof points. In the last 10 years, we at KKR have invested $5.2 billion in 32 companies through our private equity strategies mostly, and some our infrastructure strategies. And you know what we found? That we can get great returns if we identify the right problems that need to be solved. Here's an example, food safety in China. So remember melamine and the tragedy that happened there? The reason that happened was because the supply chain around many of their agricultural products wasn't what it should be. We've made 5 investments in that space, and our thesis was food safety, and we've done very well. Another area we've focused a lot in the last several years is water systems. We all remember the tragedy that happened in Flint.
Right.
The reason that happens is because in too many cities, there's underinvestment in those water systems. We've invested in the water systems to improve them and upgrade them and protect the people and protect the environment. Great opportunity for returns there too. Our investors see that.
More money coming into this space? Are you seeing these deals get more competitive, valuations going up?
Depends what you're talking about. Look, valuations are going up across the board. And there is some more competition. The key to it is, are you being diligent about where you're investing? And our basic question we look for every investment is, we say, is there an underlying market for this? Are there individuals? Are there consumers? Are there governments? Are there corporates that are willing to pay for this solution? We also look and we say, is this solution one that is consistent with the UN SDGs and a locally relevant problem? And if all 3 things are there, we look to make the investment.
So synthesize this for me, if you will, what we've heard from some big CEOs around the world recently that say it's not just about the bottom line anymore. We're not just serving shareholders, and they use the word you've been using for many years, which is stakeholders. Right. What does that actually look like in terms of maybe some profits given up or some more holistic view of doing an investment?
Look, handled right, in my opinion, what it means is alignment. It means you need to govern companies in a way that creates shareholder value, and it does it by aligning their interests with the interests of stakeholders in a way that is beneficial for both. So what are some examples? I'll give you a few. First, if you look at the industrial companies in which KKR has invested, our lead gentleman at those companies, a guy named Pete Stavros, who you know, he, along with the CEOs of those companies, have done a fantastic job of improving productivity by engaging employees more. So with 7 companies, with 22,000 employees, we have produced to those employees $500 million in equity, in stock, so that a big part of the hourly workers at those companies' compensation is tied to companies' performance, and they can build real wealth. We've seen 400 to 700 basis point improvement in those companies. That's an example where our shareholders benefit because we're creating shared value.
All right. It would be journalistic malpractice if I had you at this table as the former chairman of the RNC. You got George W. Bush reelected. If I didn't ask you about this in the context of politics, the 2020 election is around the corner. How big of an issue is sustainability and climate going to be as we get toward next November?
I think sustainability and climate change are huge issues. And you know, it's interesting, if you think about it, politicians are often lagging indicators to where the world is. Americans and people around the world, they look and they say, look at these incredibly aggressive storms we're seeing. Look at the number of 1,000-year floods. 5 of the hottest years in history are the last 5 years. People see that in their lives. They see if they live in Texas, the hurricanes that they've received. They see the flash floods we've received in the Midwest. And they say we need solutions to those problems. And I think there's an exciting opportunity for both parties to come together and say, how do we provide solutions? How do we take the power of American ingenuity and our markets to deal with issues like climate change? It's really important, and I hope that they will take this opportunity.